I'm reading from Autobiography of Yogi. I'm starting 4 paragraphs down on page 175. I concealed my vexation at these incomprehensible remarks. A peasant soon appeared on the road. He was dancing grotesquely and flinging his arms about with meaningless gestures. Almost paralyzed with curiosity, I glued my eyes on the hilarious spectacle. As the man reached a point in the road where he would vanish from our view, Yukteswar said, "Now he will return." The peasant at once changed his direction and made for the rear of the ashram. Crossing a sandy tract, he entered the building by the back door. I had left it unlocked, even as my guru had said. The man emerged shortly, holding one of my prized cantaloupes. He now strode along respectably, invested with the dignity of possession. The unfolding farce, in which my role appeared to be that of the bewildered victim, was not so disconcerting that I failed an indignant pursuit of the thief. I was halfway on to the road when Master called me back. He was shaking from head to foot with laughter. "That poor crazy man has been longing for a cauliflower," he explained with outbursts of mirth. "I thought it would be a good idea if he got one of yours, so ill-guarded." I dashed to my room, where I found that the thief, evidently one with a vegetable fixation, had left untouched my gold rings, watch, and money, all lying openly on the blanket. He had crawled instead under the bed, where the basket of cauliflowers, completely hidden from casual sight, had yielded the object of his single-hearted desire. I asked Yukteswar that evening to explain the incident, which had, I thought, a few baffling features. My guru shook his head slowly. You will understand it some day. Science will soon discover a number of these hidden laws." When the wonders of radio burst some years later on an astounded world, I remembered Master's prediction. Age-old concepts of time and space were annihilated. No person's home so narrow that London or Calcutta could not enter. The dullest intelligence enlarged before indisputable proof of one's aspect of man's omnipresence. The plot of the cauliflower comedy may best be understood by a radio analogy. My guru was a perfect human radio. Thoughts are no more than very subtle vibrations moving in the ether. Just as a correctly tuned radio picks up a desired musical number out of thousands of other programs from every direction, so Yukteswar had been sensitively receptive to a certain pertinent thought, that of the half-witted man who was hankering for a cauliflower. Out of the countless thoughts of broadcasting humans' minds in the world. During the walk towards the beach, no sooner had Master become aware of the peasant's simple yearning that he was willing to gratify it. Yukteswar's divine eye had discovered the man dancing down the road before he had become visible to the disciples. My forgetfulness about locking the ashram door had given Master a convenient excuse to deprive me of one of my valued vegetables. After thus functioning as a receiving instrument, Yukteswar then operated through his powerful will as a broadcaster or sending instrument. In that role, he had successfully directed the peasant to reverse his steps and go to a certain room for a single cauliflower. Intuition is soul guidance, appearing naturally in man during those instants when his mind is calm. Nearly everyone has had the experience of an inexplicably correct hunch or transferred his thoughts accurately to another person. The human mind, freed from the disturbances or static of restlessness, is empowered to perform all the functions of complicated radio mechanisms. sending as well as receiving thoughts, and tuning out undesirable ones. As the power of a radio broadcasting station is regulated by the amount of electrical current it can utilize, so the effectiveness of a human radio depends on the degree of willpower possessed by each person. All thoughts vibrate eternally in the cosmos. By deep concentration, a master is able to detect the thoughts of any man, living or dead. Thoughts are universally and not individually rooted. A truth cannot be created, but only perceived. Any erroneous thought of man is a result of an imperfection, large or small, in his discernment. The goal of yoga science is to calm the mind that, without distortion, it may hear the infallible counsel of the inner voice. The radio and television have brought the instantaneous sound and sight of remote persons to the firesides of millions. The faint scientific intimations that man is an the first faint scientific intimation that man is an all-pervading spirit. Though the ego in most barbaric ways conspires to enslave man, man is not a body confined to a point in space, but is essentially the omnipresent soul. Very strange, very wonderfully, very improbable phenomena may yet appear, which once established will not astonish us more than we are now astonished at all the science has taught us during the last century. Charles Robert Richet, a Nobel laureate in physiology, has declared, "It is assumed that the phenomena which we now accept without surprise do not excite our astonishment because they are understood. But this is not the case. If they do not surprise us, it is not because they are understood, it is because they are familiar. For if that which is not understood ought to surprise us, we should be surprised at everything. The fall of a stone thrown into the air, the acorn which becomes an oak, the mercury which expands when it is heated, iron attracted by a magnet. The science of today is light matter. Those amazing truths that our descendants will discover are even now all around us, staring us in the eyes, so to speak, yet we do not see them. But it is not enough to say that we do not see them, we do not wish to see them. For as soon as unexpected and unfamiliar facts appear, we try to fit it into the framework of the commonplaces of accepted knowledge, and are indignant that everyone should dare to experiment further." A humorous occurrence took place a few days after I had been implausibly robbed of a cauliflower. A certain kerosene lamp could not be found. Having so lately witnessed my guru's omnipresent insight, I thought he would demonstrate that it was child's play to find the lamp. Master perceived my expectation. With exaggerated gravity, he questioned all ashram residents. A young disciple confessed he had used the lamp to go to the well in the backyard. The Sri Yukteswar gave the solemn counsel, "Seek the lamp near the well." I rushed there, no lamp. Crestfallen, I returned to my guru. He was now laughing heartily, without compunction for my disillusionment. "Too bad I couldn't direct you to the vanished lamp. I am not a fortune teller." With twinkling eyes he added, "I am not even a satisfactory Sherlock Holmes." I realized that Master would never display his powers when challenged or for a triviality. Delighted, weeks sped by. Sri Yukteswar was planning a religious procession. He asked me to lead the disciples across the town and the beach of Puri. The festival day, the summer solstice, dawned with intense heat. "Guruji, how can I take the barefoot students over the fiery sands?" I asked despairingly. "I'll tell you a secret," Master said. The Lord shall send an umbrella of clouds. You will walk in comfort. I happily organized the procession. Our group started out from the ashram with a Santasaga banner. Designed by Sir Yukteswar, it bore the symbol of the single eye, this telescopic gaze of intuition. No sooner had we left the hermitage than the sky became filled with clouds, as though by magic. To the accompaniment of astonished ejaculations from all observers, a light shower fell, cooling the city streets and scorching seashore. The soothing drops descended during the 2 hours of the parade. The exact instant at which our group returned to the ashram, the clouds and rain disappeared. You see how God feels for us, Master replied after I expressed my gratitude. The Lord responds to all and works for all. Just as he sent rain at my plea, so he fulfills any sincere desire of the devotee. Seldom do men realize how often God heeds their prayers. He is not partial to a few, but listens to everyone who approaches him trustfully. His children should ever have implicit faith. His children should ever have implicit faith in the loving kindness of their omnipresent Father. And there's a quote here from Psalms 94:9 to 10. Sri Yukteswar sponsored 4 yearly festivals at the equinoxes and solstices, when his students gathered from far and near. The winter solstice celebration was held in Serampore. The first one I attended left me with permanent blessing. The festivities started in the morning with a barefoot procession along the streets. The voices of 100 students rang out with sweet religious songs. A few musicians played the flute and kol, kartal, drums and cymbals. Enthusiastic townspeople strewed the path with flowers, glad to be summoned to the prosaic task by our resounding praise of the Lord's blessed name. The long tour ended in the courtyard of the hermitage. There we encircled our guru, while students on upper balconies showered us with marigold blossoms. Many guests went upstairs to receive a pudding of chana and oranges. I made my way to a group of brother disciples who were serving today as cooks. Food for such large gatherings had to be cooked outdoors in huge cauldrons. The improvised wood-burning brick stoves were smoky and tear-provoking, but we laughed merrily at our work. Religious festivals in India are never considered troublesome. Each devotee gladly does his part, supplying money or rice or vegetables or his personal services. Master was soon in our midst, supervising the details of the feast. Busy every moment, he kept pace with the most energetic young student. A Sankirtan, group chanting, accompanied by the harmonium and hand-beaten Indian drums, was in progress on the second floor. Sri Yukteswar listened appreciatively. His musical sense was acutely perfect. They are off key. Master left the cooks and joined the musicians. The melody was heard again, this time correctly rendered. The Sama Veda contains the world's earliest writings on musical science. In India, music, painting, and the drama are considered divine arts. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the eternal trinity, were the first musicians. Shiva, in his aspect of Nataraja, the cosmic dancer, is scripturally represented as having worked out the infinite modes of rhythm in the processes of universal creation, preservation, and destruction. While Brahma and Vishnu accentuated the time beat, Brahma clanging the cymbals and Vishnu sounding the Miridanga, or holy drum. Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, is symbolized as performing on the Veena, mother of all stringed instruments. Krishna, an incarnation of Vishnu, is shown in Hindu art with a flute. On it he plays the enrapturing song that recalls to their true home the human souls wandering in the Maya delusion. The foundation stones of Hindu music are ragas, or fixed melodic scales. The 6 basic ragas branch out into 126 derivative raginis (wives) and putras, sons. Each raga has a minimum of 5 notes: a leading note, vadi or king, a second note, samavadi or prime minister, and helping notes, anuvadi, attendants, and a dissonant note, vidadini, the enemy. Each of the 6 basic ragas has a natural correspondence within a certain hour of the day, season of the year, and a presiding deity who bestows a particular potency. Thus, 1. The Hidol raga is heard only at dawn in the spring to evoke the mood of universal love. 2. Dipaka raga is played during the evening in summer to arouse compassion. 3. Magha raga is a melody for midday in the rainy season to summon courage. 4. Bahara Ranava raga is played in the mornings of August, September, October to achieve tranquility. Siri raga is reserved for autumn twilights to attain pure love. Malkalsa raga is heard at midnights in winter for valor. The ancient rishis discovered these laws of sound alliance between nature and man. Because nature is an objectification of Om, the primal sound or vibratory word, man can obtain control over all natural manifestations through the use of certain mantras or chants. Historical documents tell of the remarkable powers possessed by Minya Tansin, a 16th century court musician for Akbar the Great. Commanded by the emperor to sing a night raga while the sun was overhead, Tansin intoned a mantra that instantly caused the whole palace precincts to become enveloped in darkness. Indian music divides the octave into 22 surutas, or semitones. These microtonal intervals permit fine shades of musical expression unattainable by the Western chromatic scale of 12 semitones. Each of the 7 basic notes of the octave is associated in Hindu mythology with a color: the natural cry of a bird or beast, Do with green and the peacock, Re with red and the scarlark, Mi with gold and the goat, Fa with yellow and yellowish white and the heron, and Sol is with black and the nightingale, La with color and the horse with yellow and the horse, and Si with a combination of all colors and the elephant. Indian music outlines 72 thatas or scales. A musician has creative scope for endless improvisation around the fixed traditional melody or raga. He concentrates on the sentiment or definitive mood of the structural theme and embroiders it to the limits of his own originality. The Hindu musician does not read set notes. At each playing he clothes anew the bare skeleton of the raga, often confining himself to a single melodic sequence, stressed by repetition, all its subtle microtonal and rhythmic variations. Bach, among Western composers, understood the charm and power of repetitious sound, slightly differentiated in 100 complex ways. Sanskrit literature describes 120 talas, or time measures. The traditional founder of Hindu music, Bharata, is said to have isolated 32 kinds of tala in the sound of a lark. The origin of tala or rhythm is rooted in human movements, the double time of walking and the triple time of respiration and sleep when inhalation is twice the length of exhalation. India has long recognized the human voice as the most perfect instrument of sound. Hindu music therefore largely confines itself to the voice range of 3 octaves. For the same reason, melody, relation of successive notes, is stressed rather than harmony, relationship of simultaneous notes. Hindu music is subjective, spiritual, and individualistic art, aiming not at symphonic brilliance but at personal harmony with the oversoul. All the celebrated songs of India have been composed by devotees of the divine. The Sanskrit word for musician, or Bhagavath, he who sings the praises of God. The Sankirtans, or musical gatherings, are an effective form of yoga or spiritual discipline necessitating intense concentration, absorption in the seed thought and sound. Because man himself is an expression of the creative word, sound exercises on him a potent and immediate effect. Great religious music of East and West bestows joy on man because it causes a temporary vibratory awakening of one of his occult spiritual centers. In those blissful moments, a dim memory comes to him of his divine origin. A Sankirtan issuing from Sri Yukteswar's second-story sitting room on the day of the festival was inspiring to the cooks amid the steaming pots. My brother, disciples, and I joyously sang the refrains, beating time with our hands. By sunset, we had served our hundreds of visitors with khichdi, rice and lentils, vegetable curry, and rice pudding. We laid cotton blankets over the courtyard. Soon the assemblage was squatting under the starry vault, quietly attentive to the wisdom pouring from Yukteswar's lips. His public speeches emphasized the value of Kriya Yoga and a life of self-respect, calmness, determination, simple diet, and regular exercise. A group of very young disciples then chanted a few sacred hymns. The meeting concluded with fervent Sankirtan. From 10 o'clock until midnight, ashram residents washed pots and pans, cleared the courtyard. My guru called me to his side. I am pleased over your cheerful labors today and during the past week of preparations. I want you with me. You may sleep in my bed tonight. This was a privilege I had never thought would fall to my lot. We sat a while in a state of intense divine tranquility. About 10 minutes later we laid down to sleep. Master rose and began to dress. "What is the matter, sir?" The joy of sleeping beside my guru was suddenly tingled with unreality. "I think that a few students who missed their proper train connections will be here soon. Let us have some food ready." "Guruji, no one would come at 9 o'clock in the morning." "Stay in bed. You have been working very hard, but I am going to cook." So Sri Yukteswar's resolute tone. At Sri Yukteswar's resolute tone, I jumped up and followed him to the small, daily used kitchen adjacent to the second-floor inner balcony. Rice and dal were soon boiling. My guru smiled affectionately. Tonight you have conquered fatigue and fear of hard work. You will never be bothered by them in the future." As he uttered these words of lifelong blessing, footsteps sounded in the courtyard. I ran downstairs and admitted a group of students. "Dear brother," one man said, "how reluctant we are to disturb the master at this hour. We made a mistake about train schedules, but felt we could not return home without a glimpse of our guru. He has been expecting you and is even now preparing your food." Siri Yutaswar's welcoming voice rang out. I led the astonished visitors to the kitchen. Master turned to me with twinkling eye. "Now that you have finished comparing notes, no doubt you are satisfied our guest really did miss their train." I followed him to his bedroom. A half hour later, anticipating happily the honor of sleeping beside a godlike guru. Chapter 16. Outwitting the Stars. "Mukunda, why don't you get an astrological omelet?" "Should I, master? I don't believe in astrology." "It is not a question of belief. The scientific attitude one should take on any subject is whether it is true. The law of gravitation worked as effectively before Newton as after him. The cosmos would be fairly chaotic if its laws did not operate without the sanction of human belief. Charlatans have brought the ancient stellar science to its present disrepute. Astrology is too vast, both mathematically and philosophically, to be rightly grasped, except by men of profound understanding. If ignoramuses misread the heavens and see there a scrawl instead of a script, that is to be expected in this imperfect world. One should not dismiss the wisdom with the wise. All parts of creation are linked together and interchange their influences. The balanced rhythm of the universe is rooted in reciprocity," my guru continued. "Man in his human aspect has to combat two sets of forces. First, the tumults within his being caused by the admixture of earth, water, fire, air, and the ethereal elements. Second, the outer disintegrating powers of nature. As long as man struggles with his mortality, he is affected by the myriad mutations of heaven and earth. Astrology is the study of man's response to planetary stimuli. The stars have no conscious benevolence or animosity. They merely send forth positive and negative radiations. Of themselves, these do not help or harm humanity, but offer a lawful channel for the outward operation of cause-effect equilibriums that each man has set into motion in the past. A child is born on that day and that hour when the celestial rays are in mathematical harmony with his individual karma. His horoscope is a challenging portrait revealing his unalterable past and its probable future results. But the natal chart can be rightly interpreted only by men of intuitive wisdom. These are few. The message boldly blazoned across the heavens at the moment of birth is not meant to emphasize fate, the result of past good and evil, but to arouse man's will to escape from his universal thraldom. What he has done, he can undo. None other than himself was the instigator of the causes of whatever effects are now prevalent in his life. He can overcome any limitation because he created it by his own actions. in the first place, and because he possesses spiritual resources that are not subject to planetary pressure. Okay, that's almost at the end of page 88. I'm stopping for today. Thank you. Bye.